Hey everyone, my name is Tyler Heath. I'm the owner of Dan the Movie Man. Today we have.
Krystal Stanton, the owner of DOT Compliance Services.
Okay, and what are you here for, Krystal?
I'm here today to educate all of your drivers and employees on FMCSA's regulations relating to hours of service, daily vehicle inspections, the importance of doing a thorough vehicle inspection, making sure that the trucks are road ready, and
Why is this important?
this is a critical factor to your business. It's essentially another insurance policy. That way, when the trucks leave the lot here, they're road ready. The drivers are knowledgeable of what they're supposed to be keeping an eye on, and everything's in check. But you need to fill it in great detail. Whether you have a CDL or not, you got to go in here and mark down what type of driver's license you've had, any previous accidents or violations. I know it's really hard to know what date or month. Just have a rough estimate, just so that there's some honesty on there when we do background checks.
Just curious, if you're not driving overstate, do you need to fill these out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Because here's the thing, this application is what FMCSA requires, and if for some reason you have a situation where Zach gets a call and you say you gotta head to Minnesota, western Minnesota, like 4-hour trip close to South Dakota or whatever. Yeah. You gotta go over there with the truck, and or you need to have a trailer or you get a bigger truck or whatnot. This is the application that you need. So you're better off to start off with this application and have all the information that you need.
Okay.
So then that way, should something happen, and as your business is growing, you're gonna have all your bases covered right off the bat.
Okay.
Okay. So fill that out in great detail. Inside here, we got a driver disclosure. This is just going to verify that you guys are giving me consent to go ahead and run like a motor vehicle report on you guys, look at your driving record, criminal background checks, things of that nature. Just signing off on that. This I would need before I leave, so that way I've got your information. And if you could, we will need to get copies of your driver's license front and back as well. And this next form here is a certification of compliance with your driver's license requirements. This breaks down stating that you possess only one driver's license. You don't have multiple. You don't have one in Colorado and one in Wisconsin, because that's against the law. That type of information. The next form we got here is exemption of road test. Now, essentially what this does, this is more so for like CDL drivers, but on here, you're going to check, you got a certificate of road test, which is attached, which is going to be a copy of your driver's license front and back that we need to have on hand. Along with hiring new employees, I know that you guys have worked here for quite some time. Well, you're new. Essentially what we're required to do is do background checks with your previous employer. This form here, this needs to be filled out. And it gives us the consent to contact them, get some information on your driving record, if you're an acceptable employee. Not to bore you guys or anything, but there's some really critical information in these policies. And a lot of times what companies will do is they'll bring new employees on. They'll say, here, fill out this paperwork. Here's a copy of this policy. Make sure you sign off on that form. Read it when you have time. You really need to read through this, because if something comes up and you say, well, I wasn't aware of that, it's in here. Okay? So, to get started, Dan the Moving Man. The purpose of this policy is to provide the implementation of the Dan the Moving Man alcohol and drug testing policy for employees performing jobs that require a commercial driver's license. This policy is based on Dan the Moving Man's commitment to maintain a safe, helpful, and productive work environment for all employees, and to ensure the safe and effective delivery of products and services to all the customers. Now, I know this breaks it down as a commercial motor vehicle, but you have to remember anything over 10,001 pounds is a commercial motor vehicle. So that's what you guys operate, okay? People get it confused with commercial motor vehicle and CDL required vehicle. And all Dan the Moving Man employees who are required to have a commercial driver's license are subject to the controlled substance and alcohol testing rules. The CDL is required for drivers operating a vehicle that meets the requirements of Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Commercial motor vehicles designated to carry 16 or more passengers, including the driver of any size, which are used in the transportation of hazardous materials. So that's just a breakdown of the CDL stuff as well. But I want to make sure we have that covered in here because you're
can you explain to them why our truck is not, you do not have to have a CDL license?
Sure. So the gross vehicle weight rating on his trucks, in the door jam is 25,500, I believe when we went and checked it out, right?
Yep.
So his trucks could actually be 26,000 pounds for a gross vehicle weight rating and not require a CDL. But as soon as that truck has a gross vehicle weight rating of 26,001, you need to have that CDL. It's that 1 pound. Same with like hours of service regulations for intrastate operations. If you guys are operating trucks that have a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,000 pounds, you don't need to keep track of your hours or do time cards or anything of that nature. But the minute you have one that's over 10,001 pounds, then all those rules apply. Prohibited alcohol and controlled substance related conduct. The following activities are prohibited: being on duty and or operating a commercial motor vehicle while possessing alcohol. When required to take a post-accident alcohol test, using alcohol within 8 hours following the accident or prior to undergoing a post-accident alcohol test, whichever comes first. Refusing to submit to an alcohol or controlled substance test required by post-accident random reasonable suspicion or following up of testing requirements. Reporting for duty or remaining on duty if the driver tests positive for controlled substances. Being on duty performing a job that requires a commercial driver's license when the employee's general appearance or conduct or some other sustaining evidence indicated that he or she has used alcohol within the preceding 4 hours. Consequences of the employee. An employee who is known to have engaged in prohibited behavior with regard to alcohol misuse or use of controlled substances are subject to the following consequences. Employees shall not be permitted to operate a vehicle that meets the requirements of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. When an employee is tested for the first time and his breath alcohol level ranges from 0.02 to 0.039, he shall be relieved from duty for 3 days without pay. An employee with a previous test showing alcohol use who is tested a second time and found to have a breath alcohol level of 0.02 or greater will be subject to termination. Employees who refuse the test shall be considered to have received a positive test result and are subject to termination. Employees who test 0.04 or greater on the first test shall be referred to a substance abuse professional for evaluation, will be considered as needing assistance in resolving problems associated with alcohol, and will be subject to at least 6 follow-up tests in the following 12 months, or as directed by the SAP, which is a substance abuse professional. The employee at their own expenses shall be evaluated by the SAP, who shall determine what assistance, if any, the employee needs in resolving problems associated with alcohol misuse and controlled substances use. An employee's refusal to visit a SAP or follow his treatment plan will result in termination. Employees tested after referral to a SAP who shows a breath alcohol level of 0.02 or greater shall be subject to termination. Employees who test positive for a controlled substance shall be subject to termination as well. Day on the Moving Man employees shall be advised of the resources available to them in evaluating and resolving problems associated with the misuse of alcohol or other use of controlled substances. Types of testing. In order to enhance highway safety, Day on the Moving Man will follow the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration regulations requiring employees holding a CDL to be tested for use of controlled substances and misuse of alcohol, and the following are types of tests required to be administered. Random testing for alcohol shall be administered at an annual rate of 25% of the average number of CDL employees, which this part right here doesn't apply to you guys right now because none of you guys, unless you guys have, does anyone in here have a CDL? No? Okay. Reasonable suspicion testing shall be administered to an employee when Day on the Moving Man has reason to believe the employee has violated the alcohol or controlled substance prohibitions. Reasonable suspicion shall be defined as the belief that the driver has violated the alcohol or controlled substance prohibition, use of possession based on specific observations concerning the appearance, behavior, speech, or body odors of the employee. Post-accident testing. Day on the Moving Man shall test for alcohol and controlled substances on each surviving employee when either there is an accident or employee receives a citation under state or local law for a moving traffic violation. An accident defined as an incident involving a vehicle in which there is either a fatality, an injury to the employee or to another, or causes significant property damage or involves other unusual circumstances. The employee subject to post-accident testing must refrain from consuming alcohol for 8 hours following the accident, or until he or she submits to an alcohol test, whichever comes first. The employee must remain available for testing, and if he or she is not, his lack of availability will be considered as a refusal to take the test. When an alcohol or controlled substance test has not been administered within a reasonable time frame following the accident, the following actions shall be taken. If the employee has not submitted to the alcohol test within 2 days, Dan the moving man shall prepare and maintain on file a record stating the reason the test was not properly administered. If the employee has not submitted to an alcohol test after 8 hours, attempts to administer the alcohol test shall cease. The documentation shall be prepared and maintained as described above. And if the employee has not submitted, Dan the moving man, shall cease admissions to administer the test and shall prepare and maintain the record as described above as well. Return to duty testing and follow-up testing shall ensure that before an employee who has engaged in prohibited conduct regarding alcohol misuse returns to duty in a position requiring the performance of a commercial driver's license, the employee shall undergo a return to duty alcohol testing indicating a breath alcohol concentration of less than 0.02. Employees who test positive for controlled substances shall be subject to immediate termination of employment. Following a determination that an employee needs assistance in resolving problems associated with the alcohol misuse, Dan the moving man shall ensure that the employee is subject to unannounced follow-up alcohol testing or controlled substance testing at the employee's expense, as directed by the substance abuse professional. The employee shall be subject to minimum of 6 follow-up controlled substance and or alcohol tests in the following 12 months again. There's also 2 other documents in here that you have to sign off on saying that you understand the drug and alcohol policy and whatnot. So that's it for that one. Now we get to go on to the fleet safety, or any questions on that one? No? The fleet safety program, that's a little bit longer, but this covers a lot of imperative information. Now we'll go ahead and we'll cover the fleet safety program. The motor vehicle safety policy. Many employees operate company-owned, leased, rental, or personal vehicles as part of their jobs. Employees are expected to operate vehicles safely to prevent accidents that may result in injuries and property loss. It is the policy of Dan the Moving Man to provide and maintain a safe working environment to protect our employees and the citizens of the communities where we conduct business from injury or property loss. The company considers the use of automobiles part of the working environment. The company is committed to promoting a heightened level of safety awareness and reasonable driving behavior in its employees. Our efforts and the commitment of employees will prevent vehicle accidents and reduce personal injury and property loss claims. This program requires the full cooperation of each driver to operate their vehicle safely and to adhere to the responsibilities outlined in the motor vehicle safety program. Elements of this program include assigning responsibilities at all levels of employment, vehicle use and insurance requirements, employees' driver's license checks and identification of high-risk drivers, accident reporting and investigation, vehicle selection and maintenance, training standards, and safety regulations. So as far as responsibility goes, management is responsible for successful implementation and ongoing execution of this program. Supervisors and employees are responsible for meeting and maintaining the standards set forth in the program. This policy applies to employees who operate vehicles on company business and will be reviewed by managers and supervisors to ensure full implementation and compliance. The company president is Tyler Heath. The company president is responsible for directing an aggressive vehicle safety program. Management will implement the motor vehicle safety program in their areas of responsibility, establish measurement objectives to ensure compliance with the program, provide assistance and the resources necessary to implement and maintain the program. The supervisors will investigate and report all accidents involving a motor vehicle used in performing company business, forward all accident reports to the vehicle safety coordinator, and be responsible for taking appropriate action to manage high-risk drivers as defined by this program. Provide driver training, either internally or through external means, for high-risk drivers. The vehicle safety coordinator is going to maintain the appropriate records, and drivers will always operate a motor vehicle in a safe manner as explained under the section titled Driver Safety Regulations. Maintain a valid driver's license and minimum insurance requirements on personal vehicles used in company business. Maintain assigned vehicles according to established maintenance standards. For company-owned vehicles, the first topic here is about passenger cars. I'm not sure that he really has any, but in time maybe he will, and you guys will have to utilize them. Employees authorized by their supervisors will be permitted to operate a passenger car. When the vehicle is driven for personal use, only the employee will be permitted to operate the vehicle. No one under the age of 16 will be permitted to operate that vehicle. With commercial vans and trucks, employees with appropriate commercial driver's license authorized from their supervisor and qualified by state and federal DOT, when applicable, will be permitted to operate the vehicle. Only employees over the age of 21. That's commercial motor vehicles. Personal vehicles on company business. Employees who drive their personal vehicles on company business are subject to the requirements of this program, including maintaining auto liability insurance with minimum limit set of $25,000 for bodily injury and $50,000 for property damage. Maintain current state vehicle inspections when required. Maintain their own vehicle in a safe operating condition when driven on company business. Rental vehicles. Rental vehicles will be leased from vendors such as Hertz, Avis, etc. All rental vehicles will be rented in the employee's name and purchase the insurance provided by the rental company. Unauthorized use of vehicles. Assigned drivers and other authorized employees will not allow an unauthorized individual to operate a company vehicle. No exceptions. Disciplinary action may be taken. Additionally, if unauthorized use results in an accident, the responsible employee will be required to make restitution for the damages. Contractors and temporary employees. Contractors and temporary employees will be treated as company employees and will comply with the requirements of this program. Failure to meet all requirements will result in the immediate loss of driving privileges. The driver selection. Driver evaluation. Employees will be evaluated and selected based on their driving ability. To evaluate employees, all drivers, management will review past driving performance and work experience through previous employers' reference checks. All new employees and current employees recently assigned in driving duties will be required to complete the application addendum for employment requiring driving. Review the employee's motor vehicle record annually, more frequently if reasons warrant, and ensure the employee has a valid driver's license. Ensure the employee is qualified to operate the type of vehicle he or she will drive. As far as driver qualifications go, effective driver qualification controls are important elements of a successful motor vehicle safety program. Management developed and incorporated standards into this program which reflect the skills necessary for satisfactory job performance while taking into consideration applicable federal and state regulations. The company has implemented 3 levels of driver qualification criteria. Use of any or all of these criteria is dependent upon the nature and scope of the driving requirements. Number 1, state-regulated driver qualification perimeters must be met. Regulatory information will be obtained when applicable. State departments of transportation and motor vehicle services. 2, where applicable, drivers will comply with DOT commercial driver's license regulations. And drivers involved in interstate or foreign commerce in vehicles with a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,001 pounds or more, designated to transport 16 or more passengers, including the driver, or use in the transportation of hazardous materials in a quantity requiring placarding under the DOT hazardous materials regulations, are subject to the requirements of the DOT Federal Highway Administration's Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. Drivers involved in intra or interstate operations with a gross vehicle weight rating of 26,001 pounds or more must have a CDL license and be enrolled in a drug and alcohol testing program. So keep that in mind when you guys grow and you get bigger trucks and stuff and you have to get CDLs, you'll have a pre-employment drug test and then you'll be enrolled in a drug and alcohol consortium where they'll randomly select names on a quarterly basis and you might have to be called in. The following criteria was established to identify high-risk drivers. A driver is unacceptable if the driver's accident violation history in the past year includes one or more of the following moving violation convictions: driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, hit and run, failure to report an accident, negligent homicide arising out of the use of a motor vehicle, operating during a period of suspension or revocation, using a motor vehicle for the commission of a felony, operating a motor vehicle without the owner's authority, permitting an unlicensed person to drive, reckless driving, speeding 3 or more in a 3-year period, and 2 preventable accidents in a 12-month period. Drivers who are identified as high risk or in violation may be subject to several actions from management, including but not limited to: the driver may be required to attend a defensive or safe driving course on their own time and expense. Drivers may be required to operate their own personal vehicle on company business. Driver may have their driving privileges suspended or revoked, and the drivers may be reprimanded up to and including termination. So accident recording and reporting and analysis. Dan the Moving Man considers elimination of motor vehicle accidents as a major goal. To meet this objective, all accidents will be reported to management, investigated, documented, and reviewed. The investigation identifies needs for more intensive driver training and or remedial training, improved driver selection procedures, improved vehicle inspection or maintenance activities, and changes in traffic routes. Motor vehicle accident record keeping procedures consist of the following components: documentation of cause and corrective action, management reviews to expedite corrective action, analysis of accidents to determine trends, reoccurring problems, and the need for further control measures. The responsibility, implementation of these procedures remains the responsibility of both the driver and manager. So for the driver, since the driver is the first person at this accident scene, he or she will initiate the information gathering process as quickly and thoroughly as is feasible. Management will obtain accident data from the driver through the transportation accident report, form, or by verbal communication. It is important for management to determine the extent of the accident, especially if it involves injury or death to the driver, passengers, or other parties. Management will immediately proceed with a formal investigation to determine the underlying causes and what can be done to prevent similar occurrences. The accident report will be forwarded to the insurance claims office along with any additional supported data, such as witness statements, photographs, police reports, etc. The driver participation and repair costs. If a vehicle is involved in an accident which is determined preventable, driver reimbursement to the company should be as follows. The first 50% of the repair cost, up to a maximum reimbursement of $500 per accident, if the vehicle is repairable, will be charged back to the driver. If the vehicle is a total loss, the driver will also be charged $500. Preventable versus non-preventable accidents. The following definitions relate to motor vehicle accidents. A motor vehicle accident is defined as any occurrence involving a motor vehicle which results in death, injury, or property damage unless such vehicle is properly parked. Who was injured, what property was damaged, and to what extent where the accident occurred, or who is responsible are not relative factors. A preventable accident is defined as any accident involving the vehicle unless properly parked, which results in property damage or personal injury, and in which the driver failed to do everything he or she reasonably could have done to prevent or avoid the accident. A properly parked motor vehicle is one that is completely stopped and parked where it is legal and prudent to park such a vehicle or to stop to unload or load property. Vehicles stopped to load or unload passengers are not considered parked. Parking on private property will be governed by the same regulations that apply on public streets and highways. A vehicle stopped in traffic in response to a sign, traffic signal, or the police are not considered parking. The determination of preventability of an accident is the function of the company accident review board, which would be Tyler and I. The employee accident reporting procedures. Employees will take the following actions when there are injuries to persons or damage to other vehicles or property. If possible, move the vehicle to a safe location out of the way of traffic. Call for medical attention if anyone is hurt. Secure the names and addresses of drivers and occupants of any vehicles involved, their operator's license number, insurance company names and policy numbers, as well as the names and addresses of injured persons and witnesses. Record this information on the accident report form. Do not discuss fault with or sign anything for anyone except an authorized representative of Dan the Moving Man, a police officer, or a representative of our insurance company. Immediately notify your supervisor if any injuries were involved. When there is theft of or damage to the vehicle only. If you did not witness the damage to the vehicle, you must notify the local police department immediately. Notify your supervisor, and do not have the vehicle repaired until you receive authorization from your supervisor. Send a copy of the police report along with the memo outlining any additional information to your supervisor, which you just gave it to them. If you're out of town. As far as vehicle selection, inspection, and maintenance goes, proper selection and maintenance of equipment are important aspects of this program. Reduced operational costs and accidents from vehicle defects are the direct result of a well-implemented maintenance policy. Selection of vehicles begins with understanding what wrong equipment can result in excessive breakdowns, create hazards to personnel, incur costly delays, and contribute to poor service and customer complaints. The company will purchase vehicles designed for their intended use. The employee responsible for the vehicle will inspect the vehicle prior to each trip and after each use using the daily vehicle inspection form and forward the report to the supervisor. More frequent inspections and reports may be required based on heavy use. Vehicle maintenance can take the form of 3 distinct programs: preventive maintenance, demand maintenance, and crisis maintenance. While all 3 types have their role in the motor vehicle safety program, the most cost-effective control is preventive maintenance. The groundwork for a good preventive maintenance program starts with management. A review of manufacturer specifications and recommendations for periodic preventive maintenance should be integrated with the actual experience of the vehicles. Preventive maintenance is performed on a mileage or time basis. Typical PM includes oil filter changes, lubrication, tightening belts and components, engine tune-ups, brake work, tire rotation, hose inspection, replacement, and radiator maintenance. Demand maintenance is performed only when the need arises. Some vehicles are replaced only when they actually fail. These include light bulbs, window glass, gauges, wiring, air lines, etc. Other demand maintenance includes items involve vehicle components that are worn based on information from the vehicle condition reports. These include tires, engines, transmissions, universal joints, bushings, batteries, etc. Since these situations are identified through periodic vehicle inspections, they can be classified within the PM program. Crisis management involves a vehicle breakdown while on the road. While situations of this type may happen regardless of the quality of the PM program, it is an expensive alternative to not having an effective preventive maintenance program at all. Crisis maintenance situations should be minimized through proper PM procedures. This company's vehicle selection, inspection, and maintenance program is only as good as its record-keeping procedures. Employees will forward all vehicle maintenance records for maintenance performed each month to the vehicle safety coordinator. As far as the driver training goes, drivers hired by this company to operate a motor vehicle will have the basic skills and credentials necessary to perform this function as confirmed through the driver selection process. New employees, contractors, and temporary hires will receive a copy of this program as part of their initial orientation. A formal orientation program is established to help ensure all drivers are presented with the company policy, understand their responsibilities, and are familiarized with their vehicles. Areas that must be addressed with the driver include understand, review, and be given a copy of the fleet safety program, understand and sign the vehicle assignment agreement, review individual motor vehicle reports, understand accident reporting and emergency procedures, review operation and controls of vehicles being assigned, inspect vehicle using the vehicle inspection report, and a copy of this program will be kept in the vehicle. As far as license suspension goes, drivers must notify the DOT manager if their license is suspended or revoked. Remedial training, drivers may be required to attend a safe driving school or an alcohol drug abuse program on their own time and at their own expense if a review of the driver's MVR indicates 1 or more violations or convictions within any 1-year period, or a conviction for driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Also, depending on the severity of the conviction, the employee's driving privileges may be revoked and or may result in employment termination. While we're on that subject, it's a requirement for me to meet with each one of you on an annual basis. So what we'll do at that time is I'll have a current copy of your motor vehicle report, and I'm going to give you a document that you fill out and tell me all your moving violations you've had within the last 12 months, and then I compare them and see if there's truth or whatnot, and then obviously the policy goes into play. So it's critical that when something happens or if you get pulled or whatever, let Tyler know, let him know. So then that way when we have that annual meeting, it's no surprise. Safety belts. The driver and all occupants are required to wear safety belts when the vehicle is in operation or while riding in the vehicle. The driver is responsible for ensuring passengers wear their safety belts. The driver must not operate a vehicle at any time when his or her ability to do so is impaired, affected, or influenced by alcohol, illegal drugs prescribed, or over-the-counter medication, illness, fatigue, or injury. Drivers must abide by the federal, state, and local motor vehicle regulations, laws, and ordinances. Any driver stopped for not stopping at a weigh station will be charged a $100 fine by the company per incident and could include up to termination. Drivers are responsible for ensuring the vehicle is maintained in safe driving condition. Drivers of daily vehicles should check for obvious defects before leaving the office and lot, and if necessary, request another vehicle if the employee deems the vehicle is unsafe. Drivers are encouraged to operate vehicles equipped with airbags and ABS brakes where available. Cellular phones and radios. The following procedures apply to employees driving on company business. who wish to use cellular phones in the vehicle. External speaker and microphone must be included to allow hands-free operation. Phone number, memory, and programming capabilities are to be included. Drivers are to refrain from placing outgoing calls or responding to pagers while the vehicle is in motion. Incoming calls must be avoided while the vehicle is also in motion. For any vehicle equipped with a cell phone that does not meet the above equipment specifications, use of the telephone pager is unauthorized when the vehicle is authorized when the vehicle is safely parked. Employees are prohibited from using headphones and similar devices while operating a motor vehicle. That would be listening to jamming to music while you're driving, otherwise you can't hear. Cell phone use is prohibited by law for commercial motor vehicles. Headsets must be used at all times. So general safety rules: employees are not permitted to pick up hitchhikers, accept payment for carrying passengers, use any radar detector, laser detector, or similar devices, push or pull another vehicle or tow a trailer, transport flammable liquids or gases unless a DOT or Underwriters Laboratories approved container is used, and only then in limited quantities. Use of burning flares will not be permitted. The preferred method is the use of reflective triangles. Assist disabled vehicles or accident victims beyond their level of medical expertise. If a driver is unable to provide the proper medical care, he or she must restrict his or her assistance to calling the proper authorities. Your safety and well-being is to be protected at all times. Employees are responsible for company property such as computers, paperwork, and equipment under their control. The company will not reimburse the employee for stolen personal property. And here it says, I agree to follow all the policies and procedures listed above. Failing to comply with this policy could lead up to and including termination from beyond the moving man. Any questions on that program? None? All right. So we got all the paperwork side of it covered.